You are now tuned into the Thinking Out Loud Dangerous Minds podcast. What's up, people? This is your boy, Staff D, and this is another Thinking Out Loud Dangerous Minds podcast. I have my partner with me at the moment, Mr. Black Panther himself. Go ahead, man.
What's up, man? What's up with it? This it's your boy, Ministry. You know, like you said, you know, Mr. Black Panther, but actually, no, I'm not that cool. But nah, man, what to do out there? To everybody who's tuning in, we want to say we appreciate you taking the time out to listen to us and just hear us, spit out our thoughts of on current issues that's going on in culture. Whether it's church culture, CHH, or just the broader mainstream culture at large, we appreciate y'all tuning in. So yeah, that's what it is.
Since he gave you the breakdown, I just did all what he said. We are happy to have you tuning in. Make sure you get your popcorn and Kool-Aid. No, it's flat. Man, we're trying to stay consistent, maybe not on time, because we are happily married individuals with a plethora of kids. Happen to both have a set of twins too. Ain't that crazy?
That is crazy, man.
Yeah. All them years I watched you with your two, and then all of a sudden I pop out too. So anyway, or my wife popped out too. But yeah, so we're not always able to meet the time that we set, which we're going to try to be better at that. But due to both our schedules, we both weren't able to make it at the time we had set. But anyway, it is here for you to listen to when you get a chance to listen to it. But this is the Thinking Out Loud Dangerous Mind podcast. We've been doing this for a while, but we just started this back up, man. What you think about the last one, bro?
I thought it was cool. I mean, the topic definitely, man. It's just there's so much to that topic, man. It's we really didn't even scratch the surface. You know what I'm saying? With last week's topic. So I mean that's something actually that I feel like it possibly even go into like a series. I mean, but which. Technically, I guess you can say we are. That's what we really are doing, but because we're just kind of going to another chapter of the saga of what is and where is CHH,
right?
But I like I definitely enjoyed being able to get on here and just begin to dialogue, and discuss it, the kind of like what's been going on, with the state of CHH and the uproar that's was by Charlene's Random Thoughts 3 and then the return songs, the replies to that songs, and then the uproar on social media. It's been very interesting. But the thing is, what makes now so much different than 20 years ago is the presence of social media.
Right.
Had we had Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and things of that nature back in '99 and back in 98 to 99 to 2000, it would have been the same war of words. going back and forth, with, multiple, with a myriad of people chiming in. That's the one big major difference, the big huge component that changes this particular, uproar that we're seeing now. Because then another thing, you can see how much more heavily this, I guess you would say, this beef is really fueled by the consumers of the culture and the music, more so than the actual, parties that are,
Involved.
being involved. Yeah, so I mean, because I know Shaolin didn't intend any malice or any ill, he had no ill means behind what he was doing. He just was. He felt like CHH is losing its its zeal, is losing its love, its first love, for Christ, and he wanted to prophetically
shed light on.
Yeah, he wanted to prophetically call it out, shed light on the state of culture, and of course he got pushback, which is to be expected, but
right.
But yeah, man. I was just gonna say, long story short, last week I thought was dope. I thought it was dope. My rambling though.
No, you good. I was just gonna say, interesting that you brought up, kind of brought up Shaolin again, and this is kind of a continuation of last week's topic, and we might have to, like you said, make this into like a series, a 4 parts podcast where we kind of dialogue about this, because it is a very prevalent, very captivating, and most minds and ears that follow this genre, this subgenre, this culture that is hip hop or Christian hip hop. The subculture that is Christian hip hop, they're tuned into this. They want to know, and it is the whole social media spectacle. It is those who are the fans and the stands more so than the artists themselves, who is kind of driving this stuff, farther than maybe it should go. But it is a conversation that must be had. I say that because I actually said this in a comment under a video that kind of was talking about the situation with Shaolin and Lecrae and the whole thing, and trying to distinguish between what, calling it all beef and diss tracks, and and I was like, well, I wouldn't necessarily say that Shaulin's album song was a diss track. It was an address. He addressed a situation, whereas Ruslan's track, to me, I would classify that as a diss track. So, and I was like, we need to know the difference between addressing an issue and a diss track. There's a difference. Yeah. Shaolin was we went through all this last podcast, so we don't have to go back over it. If y'all want to hear our thoughts on that, go back to our previous podcast. Shaolin addresses Lecrae is right there. You can check it out. But I feel like Shaolin was doing it the proper way, where Ruslan was actually throwing out insults and jabs, where Shaolin was addressing a issue that he felt needed to be addressed, and because it was on the public spectrum, he had to address it publicly. So that's what I felt. But anyway, it leads us into the conversation that we're going to have tonight, because it's just basically a continuation. There is a lot of issues going on in CHH right now. A lot of individuals, a lot of young artists are departing Exodus-like style from CHH, from the banner, the title, the association with CHH or Christian hip hop. They are separating themselves from a myriad of reasons. Some it's feel like it boxes them in. It doesn't allow them to express their artistic flavor, like the Lecrae's and others who are saying it that way, which I don't put Lecrae in this category because I think Lecrae play into the larger topic of tonight, and we're going to get there. But these younger artists, they don't want to be boxed in. They don't want to feel limited in their artistic expression. So that was one reason some of them would rather be called a hip hop artist that is a Christian or a Christian that does hip hop rather than be called a Christian hip hop artist. And then I heard another one listening to The Crew and a few other podcasts. This person was upset at the fact that artists in the game who are well established, who have their platform well worked out, and itched into the minds of the consumers, don't get the support that they think they should get. So they're not getting invited. I don't know if you watched the video, I sent it to you. They're not getting invited to the ciphers, or they're not getting invited to be a part of shows. Hold on, just see kids. She does that all the time. Anyway, so it's real life, folks. We are not joking about fatherhood. Anyway, upset about the fact that these artists are not creating opportunities for other artists to like if they have a show, they're not putting, if you're not a part of the clique, they're not inviting you to the show. They're not thumbing up your song. They're not sharing your product. They tell you that your music is good, but when they see it on social media or they see it on Rapzilla or they see it on any other Christian hip hop outlet, they not upping it. They not liking it. They're not sharing it. They're not commenting under it. And they're not sharing their platform. So this person was like, and I ain't saying no names. I could find the person to say their name. At this time, I don't have the person's name. I'm just remembering what they was kind of saying. I don't think they're really that known, so it ain't really. I don't think it's really that important to know the name. Yeah. They was like, so I'm basically separating myself from CHH. I'm not leaving. I'm not saying I'm not a Christian anymore. I'm still going to be doing Christian music, but because I have gotten here of my own self and CHH hasn't done anything to aid me in getting here, why should I carry the label or the logo or the banner of CHH? So I'm listening to that person. Then I'm hearing other people like the John Gibbs. Is that his name? John Gibbs?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And the fact that he was saying, and this is something that plays into the larger topic, the fact that he never even considered and actually, if you listen to him and the stuff that he's willing to say and share, I don't even know if he ever really could classify what he did as gospel or Christian. It was an artist who had some type of I won't say he don't have a relationship with God. I will never go that far, but that influence, he had godly influences, but I don't think the influence dominated what he had to say. Is that a good way to say that?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
So you have him, and he was a part of what was the group? Some junkies. What'd you say?
Dream
Junkies. Yeah. He was a part of Dream Junkies, and I think Ruslan was too, right?
Yes, sir.
So that's kind of interesting. Anyway, so he I don't even know how to describe John Gibbs. Like, he's very open about his transgressions and his shortcomings and his liberties he wears, very much on his sleeve. He wants you to know that he's not fair, which none of us are, but the way he does it can be very problematic, but he's very aware of that. So you have all these young artists coming up in the game with all these different feelings. A lot of folks using this platform to just get famous. You know what I'm saying? They're not really in it for ministerial purposes. They're not in it to necessarily win souls. They're in it to just show that they can rap, and they may came out the church and have this Christian foundation, but the reason they do music ain't really driven by the love and the desire to win souls. It's really driven by, I feel like I'm a good rapper, and I want to show you how good I am at rapping. So the question is, has the leadership within CHH dropped the ball? I said all that to get to this, because what we see going on, and I need you. What we see going on in CHH says to me one of two things: either we never had leaders, or those who are leading at this moment has really fumbled in establishing a foundation, or what's the word I want to use, a way of doing this that is acceptable and in line with biblical correctness. And I feel like me and you kind of dialogued on, texting back and forth while we was at work, trying to kind of work our thoughts through this. But I came to the conclusion that I lean towards we did at one time have leaders, but I think once that group, once some things hit that group and they no longer were the staple, the measurement that they long established, was that kind of that mythos, that belief that about them was broken and shattered. It seemed like we were good because another group seemed to be there at the right time. I'm kind of talking around where I want to go because I want to give you an opportunity to first chime in on what I just said before we get into it. But once that group, Cross Movement, once they got hit with their scandals, and Reach Records was there to kind of, it had surpassed Cross Movement at that time. So while we was watching certain individuals that we held in high remarks go through their scandals, and who we saw them as was kind of shattered, we had Reach Records. But now Reach Records is part of the reason why a lot of what's going on in CHH is going on. Is the leadership dropping the ball? So go ahead and kind of give me your thoughts up to this point before we really dive into
it. So for me, I would tend to lean to say, I would say that the leadership hasn't necessarily dropped the ball per se, and the reason why I would say that, because if we're referring to just like the Cross Movement / Reach / Limp Mode, that conglomerate, if we're talking about that group, I would say I really don't consider them to have dropped the ball per se, as far as upholding a standard or being or setting up, or definitely they didn't drop the ball with setting the precedent. Now
you said they have dropped the ball with setting the precedent.
I
said, did you say they have dropped the ball with setting the precedent, or they haven't?
I would say they haven't. I would say that with setting a precedent, they haven't.
Okay.
And then even with being leaders in the culture, I would say I don't think the reason why is this. One part of my reasoning behind this is with Cross Movement being elevated in such a high profile place in CHH, you know, they were considered, they were elevated to the point of being the leaders of the subgenre. I would almost say not of their own doing. Like it was a status that was bestowed upon them because I believe of how vocal they were about the gospel, how explicit they were about the gospel, and how clear and thorough and how theologically rich and robust they were with the gospel, how sound these dudes were, and how unashamed they were. But then also on top of it, the quality of their music was dope. And I mean, these dudes were literally pastors and scholars in the making. I mean, you had Ambassador, who was a seminarian during these years. You know, a Bible college student and a seminarian during the time when he was, you know, when Cross Movement was still up and active. Then you had other cats like Fanatic, who also is a Bible college graduate, and I mean, theologically, trained. Like these, and this pretty much almost speaks for all of them.
Yeah, so, I call them theological scholars because basically they music in many ways, and I just be honest, at the time was over my head. Like many others, and that's why, and that's why Cross Movement is. And I know a lot of people can go a lot of places, but when it do come to, if we did have any real for real leaders in CHH, it was Cross Movement. And but because they were so scholarly and so astute in their knowledge, oftentimes if you wasn't of that ilk, if you didn't have some interaction with that level of information and depth, it went over your head. Like a lot of the terms that I heard that I'm very aware of now and understand now, like hermeneutics and Christology and pneumatology and all these different, and like, you know, your favorite one, expository preaching and stuff like that. Like these dudes effortlessly did that over 16s.
Yeah, absolutely. So, absolutely.
At that time, and I apologize for interrupting you. I just wanted to throw this in there, and I hand it right back to you. At that time, I really couldn't appreciate Cross Movement. But I say that. Go ahead, finish what you're saying, and I explain myself. But go ahead.
So they were definitely leaders who, you know, and they were, and I would say they were exalted by the growing CHH community that was growing during that golden era, and but then and also because and their website even said it when they were at the apex of their run. Their website said the most trusted name in hip hop, and it was the truth. Yeah, but it was because of like you said, these dudes were theological scholars on wax, and so they definitely were leaders. And some would even argue the leaders of the subgenre in the early days.
They were the standard. They were the standard. They set the standard.
Yes, from like 96. I know they technically got started, I think, in like 95, but I would say 97 on is when their ascension really began, and especially when the 2000s hit. That's, I mean, that they really had a lot of momentum. But now the thing is, I would also say that with them being, I would say, the highest profile leaders, they weren't the only leaders in the genre.
No, they weren't. They were not. You're right.
Yeah, there were other leaders, of course, and I always look at CHH as a microcosm of the church, a small scale example or a smaller version of, you know, a reflection of the church world. The same way that you have leaders from the Reform camp. You have leading voices from the Reform camp. You have leading voices from the Charismatic camp and the Pentecostal camp. You have leading voices from the Methodist camp, and maybe your more liberal church camp. You know, you got leading voices in all these different movements and all these different denominations and church traditions and networks in Christianity, and all of them are very, very influential within the church world. And each circle motivates and inspires and rallies their respective streams of thought and philosophy and theological understanding.
Yeah.
And you got the people, like for instance, in the Reform circles, the leading voices in the Reform circles are your John Pipers, your Paul Washers, your Mark Driscolls, your Tim Kellers, your Matt Chandlers. Then in the charismatic / Pentecostal movement, your leading voices are your T.D. Jakes, your Noel Jones, your William Murphy Jr.'s, your Paul S. Mortons, Creflo Dollars and Joyce Myers, and just to name a few, Smokey Norfolk, got individuals like that, and so these are both of those are leaders, but they're different. The different camps, different
tribes, different philosophies.
Yes, absolutely.
Different interpretations, different concepts. Yes. But can I add this? And I just want to go ahead and share the question I asked you earlier, because you kind of playing into. Go ahead. What you say?
Let me just put a period on this thought.
Okay.
So I would say another set of leaders in leadership would be that of, like on the West Coast, cats like the Tunnel Rats, maybe T-Bone. If you want to say that, if you want to nod, well, some people might say Grapetree. Grapetree did have. I'm just saying, because reason why I say that is not me. Reason why I say that, because I see that there's certain people that really were influenced.
Yeah, Little Rascals and all the prime.
Yeah, really were influenced. Matter of fact, I seen a comment on YouTube where a guy said pretty much, all the good music he was listening to back in the day came out of Grapetree, which I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. But anyway, but I would definitely say there were multiple leading voices, but you definitely could argue that cross movement, after a while, they were the leading voice in CHH, and they definitely did have a leadership. Now, another reason why I say I don't think that they necessarily dropped the ball, because look at the response and the reaction of a lot of the people to cross movements, heavy influence over the subgenre.
Right.
You had a lot of cats who didn't necessarily want to be totally explicit. So when they were during that era, there was a lot of cats that were harboring I would say some resentment towards this broad brushed standard that had kind of been inadvertently set by cats like the cross movement, and then as they brought as new cats and new disciples raised up underneath them, which birthed the Lamp Modes and the Reach Records, and it's like this it just continued to establish and perpetuate this precedent that they had set, with lyrical theology and deep biblical themes in hip hop. And there were guys out there who were spitters that wanted to be, that they were Christians and they wanted people to take their Christianity serious, but they didn't necessarily want to be as explicit, and they didn't want to have to give a 3-point sermon in each song.
Right.
And so I would say because you had other leading voices and a whole slew of cats who kind of was happy to so-called have the yoke of are kind of cast off, or the yoke of lyrical theology kind of thrust to the side. I would argue for the defense of CMR that I can't say they necessarily dropped the ball, because there's been moments even
when I asked that question, I'm not even referring. That's why I want to read this because let me read this. Okay, I asked you this question. I said, has CHH ever really had leadership? Or were we honestly leading ourselves, aligning with those who either one accepted us for who we were, the culture of hip hop, like the Eric Masons, and or two, aligned with the majority in CHH theological belief structure, the John Pipers, the Paul Washers, the Mark Driscolls, and even Eric Mason, which mostly lean towards a more of a reformed mindset. So I said, but they truly don't lead the CHH movement. Are we truly leaderless? And if so, was this always the case? Now, I asked that because cross movement, like you said, cross movement basically I don't know if it was intentional. I would say it maybe not. Maybe it didn't start out intentionally. Maybe it's just a strong conviction for sound theology, the way that they saw it through rap. And because they were so vocal about that, and willing to vocalize their differences with artists who they felt like were infringing or were not representing the gospel correctly. They were willing to write, articles and blogs and all kind of things to express, their opinion on, maybe the way an artist is approaching this thing where they considered it ministry, not artistic expression. It was ministry first for them. So as they vocalize, and then, as talented as they were, especially gifted artists like Ambassador and The Truth, really was making it hard for the gospel, the Great Trees and maybe not the T-Bones, but the Great Trees and the other artists who maybe wasn't as lyrically impressive as these guys were, and then the fact that they were scholarly theologians who really could honestly lead a church, could easily be pastors,
absolutely,
leaders in an actual church setting. So our church planners and all this. So after years of hearing them, and like, dude, I'll be like what you were saying. I was a very staunch critic of cross movement because
I remember that. I vividly remember that.
I'm just gonna be real. And some of what I had problems with actually played out before our eyes later on in the storyline of cross movement. CMR, I felt like while they were theologically sound and scholarly in their message, they showed you how the walk is supposed to be without actually showing you themselves walking it out. They preach good on how we should walk and how we should do, but oftentimes I felt like what was lacking from their music is an actual, okay, show me how this is done. Don't tell me how it's done. Show me through your actual walk, your life, and stories and situations where I can see how you are walking this out. Not, like the Bible is not just lines and precepts, protocols and precepts. It actually shows you the fallible, you know, mistakes of very pivotal individuals in the Bible, like the Davids and the Pauls. And you know, Paul was, before he was Saul. He was Saul who killed Christians. He was Saul who was engrafted in. Then he was changed to Paul, and Paul had arguments with these people and that people. He had conflict. It wasn't no PC situation, and it just wasn't Paul telling us. Paul also said, when I would do right, evil is always present. And he showed how he wrestled in his walk. He showed the wrestle of his walk. Whereas a lot of times for me with cross movement, I didn't see the wrestle. I saw the message and the standard without the wrestling of the standard. And that always bothered me. But anyway, I was one of them critics. But another reason I was a critic, because a lot of what they were saying was over my head. So I couldn't appreciate the depth of cross movement until I matured in my walk. Well, let me say it like this. I ain't perfect, but when I became more mature, more knowledge in understanding, you know, biblical concepts and terminologies, then I began to understand, dang, cross movement back in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Been on this.
Right. So cross movement is the quintessential leaders of CHH. Yeah, we had the Tunnel Rats, and we had all the other groups who influenced, and I will give Tunnel Rats this credit. Tunnel Rats have definitely influenced a lot of what we are now seeing with battle rappers, even with the Show Barakas, and even down to the Lecraes. So we got to give the Tunnel Rats, the T-Bones, the Gospel Gangsters, and many others, the Tonays, even though we know what Tonay on, and even the Kurt Franklins. We got to give all of them that credit. But if we want to point to one group that were the presidents, the Congress, the House, the Senate of the representatives, going to their name of their album.
Yeah, House of Representatives.
Yeah, it was cross movement. So, in saying that, when Reach Records, like you said, we got Reach Records, then Lamp Mode came out of under that tutelage. You know, we got the Lecraes and with Clear Sight, you know, with Flame and all these folks was either former CHH artists or had heavy ties, not CHH, but CRMR artists, or had heavy ties with cross movement artists. Like Thizzle had heavy ties with JR or Courtney Peoples and Flame. So Thizzle come out of that cross movement tutelage. You had the J Sons, which is St. Louis artist, with Lamp Mode now, but back then was heavy 116 and rolled with a lot of these artists who, you know what I'm saying?
He's a 116 Click member.
Right. So cross movement before Ambassador and the Truth found themselves, and it wasn't just them, it was some other artists in CMR that had some issues that I didn't know as much about because they wasn't out front as the Ambassadors and the Truths. But before the Truth and Ambassador found themselves in their situations, which kind of was the thing that kind of chipped the armor CMR, in my opinion. I felt like that's when cross movement kind of lost its mystique, especially when Ambassador wound up in his thing, and then the Truth later on in his situation, it kind of just, I think that was the final touches of cross movement. Would you agree with that?
I would say it definitely didn't help. You know, I think cross movement. By that time, because I think it was maybe like around 2009 when it took place.
Yeah, 2009, 2010, somewhere around there.
You know, I think cross movement, the group was already. I think they had already did their last tour. If I'm not mistaken, and you know, the history tour. And
right, they had the group had did their own tour. I'm talking about the label.
Yeah, you know, and so I think like the last beacons of the label, I think, was, you know, Ambassador and The Truth, and of course, you know, they had signed K Drama, but yeah, you know, I mean, you had
and Young Noah, right?
Young Noah was hang on, was it Young?
I think
Or was it Young Josh?
Was it Young Josh? Okay, it was Young Noah. Okay.
Yeah, Young Noah was on Clear Sight.
Okay.
And yeah, but yeah, so I mean, they you know, they had a period, you know, R Swift was on the label. Everyday Process was on the label.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, and so I mean, it's, you know, they had a moment where, I mean, things were still pretty good, but yeah, I still think things were kind of already kind of on a
decline,
compared to where they were in 04, like 2002, 2003, 2004, and 05. Yeah. Like, you know, when Truth and Flame first came out the gate, like where Crossman was then, and then when Reach first came out, you know, like with the Cray, we were talking 04, and then with the first 116 Crit compilation, and then
then Lecrae released Real Talk on his own. Then Crossman kind of re-released.
Yes, okay. Yes, yeah. He did a 1.5 album record deal with them, where they re-released Real Talk, and then he released After the Music Stops. But yeah, so I mean, it's like at that time, man, especially when like you started having like Tadashi and Lecrae and Trip touring with Cross Movement, dude, they were the mothership of the CHH genre.
Right. And they was the Triforce.
yeah.
I hate to say that, but they, you know, I'll use a Zelda analogy, but they were the Triforce. It was Cross Movement, Reach Records, and soon after that it was Lamp Mode. That kind of, these three were the ones who made it up. So like you said, Cross Movement, as they begin to kind of fizzle out a little bit, Reach Records was right there with Lecrae and Trip and Tadashi, and then later on Sho Baraka, and then after that Pro with now Derek Minor. And we got to show something because we were going to talk about this last week, but I'm glad we waited. We're going to play a clip from Derek Minor at the Legacy Conference in Chicago here in a second. It plays into this conversation. But then, you know, the Andy Minios are, I think that's his name now, are at that time C Light, and so they Reach rose out of the shadows, are the tutelage of Cross Movement, and Reach became what Cross Movement was to hip hop. They were now the leaders. And so I would say I agree. Cross Movement didn't necessarily fumble the ball because Cross Movement successfully passed the baton before The Truth and Ambassador had their hiccups. Yeah, they had their hiccups in the decline of Cross Movement, when Cross Movement was, in hindsight, to Reach Records, and now Lamp Mode was clearly out front of Cross Movement now, and they was like proud fathers watching their team that grew up and became its own thing. You know what I'm saying? But so I can say, yeah, I agree. Cross Movement, I don't think Cross Movement dropped the ball, and I still feel like they are the standard, the voice of the standard that's still kind of talking. You know what I'm saying? Even though, like we said last week, because of the youth and the fact of the youth are so disconnected from the Cross Movements and the folks from that era, the standard keepers, so to speak, that they voice don't travel far, and I believe they know that. But Reach Records with the Lecraes and the Trip Lees and the Tadashis and the KBs now and the Andy Manios and the formerly the Show Barakas and formerly the Derek Miners, now Lamp Mode with I don't know all the artists in Lamp Mode. I know you got Jay Sun and you got who else over there? You would know.
Oh man, you got Jason. You had Charlene.
Yeah, Charlene.
Which I think Charlene might be independent now, though.
Yeah, I think he is.
Oh man, you got Timothy Brindle.
Okay.
At Lamp Mode. You got Stephen the Levite.
Yeah, Stephen. Okay.
And man, you used to have the group, Stephen the Levite's group, Redeemed Thought. Which was Stephen the Levite and was it Muse One? I think was the other. I forget. It's been so long.
Yeah, there's a lot. So you got them, and then and then you got smaller but just as prevalent Clear Sights, the Full Rides with the Clear Sights Fame, the Full Rides with Thizzle, and then you got Humble Beats with Propaganda and Show Baraka now, and Humble Beast.
Yeah, Humble Beast.
Humble Beast. So these are, and I hate to just use these because it's more than them, but these are the ones that ring in most people's ears because of the association with former either 116 artists or Reach artists. I believe Humble Beast, because of the acquisition of Show Baraka, that acquisition alone has brought them up a little bit in the ears of CHH artists. I mean, fans, who follow it. And of course, Jay Sun finally getting signed to Lamp Mode and then becoming basically, from what I understand, the president or the president of Lamp Mode now. So he making decisions for Lamp Mode. And then you got Flame, who was a former cross movement artist, independent to now Clear Sight, running his own label. Fizzle, linked with all links back to these groups. So these are the current leaders. And a lot of stuff has happened that we did not see on the cross movement. And I'm trying to be safe here because we have relationships with a few of these individuals that we name. And so I don't want to be offensive, but I have to be honest. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Show Baraka is one of my, that's probably one of my, if not my favorite. That is, ain't no if and buts about it. Show Baraka is my favorite CHH artist. He's my favorite. Ever since I heard Turn My Life Up.
Yeah.
I've been heads over heels for Show Baraka and his music. It just speaks to me in a way that not few other CHH artists speak to me, if he even considers himself a CHH artist. But like when he did his thing, and then you had what was the name of that group?
Social Club?
Social Club with JR, now known as Courtney.
No. High Society.
High Society. There you go. With JR, now known as Courtney Peoples, and it was a Swift or a Swoop, or I think it was Swoop. And who else was on that?
Natalie Lauren.
Natalie Lauren, which was formerly known as what?
Oh man.
They all start going by their real names. They just once she's known as something else. Anyway, it don't matter.
Yeah.
But they formed that group, but they was kind of very controversial. They were willing to, cause Show would say, "Don't be surprised you see me at the bar with a drink in my hand." You know what I'm saying? And and don't think that I'm not ministering. I'm not discipling or trying to win souls because you see me with a drink in my hand. He was trying to break free of the parameters that I would say the cross movement types had set for CHH. He kind of broke out of that mode, and he was trying to get away from the mundane, basically going to the prominent churches and rapping to Let's be
teenagers
and suburban kids that you know and so he said that, so I'm just trying to, so that's where he was. And then you had the Courtneys and all the other ones that kind of felt the same way. They wanted to express themselves beyond the parameters that was kind of set. And then you had, you know, I would use Thizzle here. Thizzle started, and it is saying he ain't the first, but I would say Thizzle did it the best that we had ever heard. Where he wasn't, I would say he's not glorifying what he used to do, but he brings it, he paints it in a way that, like, man, Thizzle was really out there, you know what I'm saying? So it was a different take. And I remember us talking to him about this, you know what I'm saying? Hey, man, you know, maybe you need to be true to who you are, the sound, and, you know, because he was really rapping over a lot of East Coast beats. And I remember us sitting in JR's house with him, or Courtney People's studio with him, saying, look, man, you should go heavily on the trap beats because your style fit that. Then, you know, I'm not saying we help institute this current Thizzle. I'm not going that far, but I feel like we were voices amongst other voices who were trying to get Thizzle to kind of go that way. And now we got the Thizzle that we got today, who has clearly carved out a new lane in that we really never really fully seen in this. Like, I would say the Gospel Gangster was probably the closest, but they didn't do it this good. You know what I'm saying? So and I'll pause right there and let you in because I feel like I've been rambling on. But go on, if you got something to add to this.
But no, I mean, like, I definitely man, like something that I mean, this kind of gets away from the main point of our discussion. But something you bring up Shovel Rocker made me want to just take a moment and just to give just basically acknowledge, you know, how much I want to, like, publicly, like, say that I really have a deep respect for Shovel Rocker for what he did. And when he left Reach Records to do music that was more authentic and was going to have more heavier subject matter and topics. You know, he did it because, you know, he felt like he was being muzzled. He felt like he was being held back. And the thing is, it wasn't a thing about not wanting to do quote unquote Christian music. It was a thing about he wanted to do music that dealt with other issues that the gospel speaks to as well. That people who perform at these youth rallies ain't doing songs that, you know, that about this stuff. And so the reason why and the main reason why, because as you were talking, I just started thinking about how I started thinking about, you know, because we were leading up to, you were leading up to about cross movement, you know, passing the baton to Reach, and then Reach, how under their, I guess, stewardship, it seems like the batons kind of got in flux, and where I would take it is that the reason why is because in the midst of them holding the baton, they did this, like they on the track field, and then out of nowhere they do a straight about face and go in a totally different direction.
Right, you go.
Yeah, and so, but before I totally go there, I wanted to acknowledge Shovel Rocker for what he did, because, and the reason why I say this is because when Shovel Rocker last year, when Shovel Rocker released the Narrative Volume 1, the full length album, he did a series of interviews in various places. One of the interviews he did, I think it was First Spins on 4th District podcast. For those of y'all who ain't ever heard of 4th District, y'all need to check it out. Especially First Spins with a Don Bean, and Off the Record with a Don Bean as well. Those are two Dan Duncan, two great, awesome podcasts.
Well, let's give him a warning though. Let's put that warning out there.
Yeah, there is mature, not a whole bunch, but if from time to time you may experience a little bit of strong language or mature language. So just be
if you ain't used to,
if you're not used to that,
liberated, you might not want to.
Yeah, but something that Shovel Rocker got into on First Spins with a Don Bean, he talked about how, and he mentioned and it goes back to the lyrics that were in the album, where he talked about how how he used to basically, and I'm paraphrasing his lyrics, but he used to look, he had opinions, critical opinions about people who were on welfare till he had to get government assistance,
right?
Because of basically, he had moments where he was struggling because the music wasn't bringing them no big money in, and what that allowed me to realize is that Shovel Rocker walked away from money by walking away from Reach. Reach was using at that time because at the time that Shovel Rocker left because he got tired of this formula of, hey, let's hit him with that, let's hit him with the Jesus music that talks about his grace, talks about his love, talks about his mercy, talks about how good he is, which Show's not saying anything wrong with it. He still talks about that in his music, but he's just saying, just the safe, nice, easy stuff to talk about from the scriptures. That we can go to these suburban churches and we go, and we gonna get that check. But Shovel Rocker wanted to talk about Jim Crow. He wanted to talk about systemic racism. He wanted to talk about politics and
stuff that really was really experiencing or had.
Stuff that really touches
his conviction.
That touches conviction, but also touches the inner. He wanted to intersect faith with everyday life.
Right.
Especially from the perspective of a young black man. And he in his own words, he said he wanted to be an urban C.S. Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to be able to take people into a world where they think critically about life and faith, but do it from an urbanized musical standpoint. An artistic standpoint, and so I want to give and I know it's been drawn out, but I want to give some prop. I want to give props and respects to Shovel Rocker for what he did, because he could have easily just been quiet, kept his head down, and just kept going with the formula that Reach was going at that time, and just putting out the same music that's going, because that was paying the bills. You know what I'm saying? It
was a formula that became a rehearsed. It wasn't really genuine no more. It was they found something. We saw this, and we all said it. They found something that worked, and they kept recreating what worked. And it was for, like you said, the check. It was for to keep money coming in.
I believe they were genuine. I believe they really were. I believe their motives of doing it for the gospel. But at the same time, it's because in something that Show even alluded to when he talked about his break from Reach. He said he had went to Lecrae and he had opened up to Lecrae about he wanted to deal with other stuff.
Right. I was about to go right where you went. It was interesting stuff there, but go ahead.
Yeah, and Lecrae was he was saying like I guess him and Lecrae like really want to see an eye to eye on this, but he gave Lecrae some books, or hip Lecrae, basically. Yeah, he hip Lecrae some books, and Lecrae began to read and look into some of the stuff the Show was talking about, and and you know, it I guess it illuminated Lecrae to a certain extent. And the thing is, and I do want to go on record as saying this, you know, before Reach did their About Face, Shobaraka left. He was the first one that went to go to expand on what he was doing as a musician, as an artist, as an MC, and expand his subject matter and the topics that he dealt with. But when he did it, he was considered more so of a rogue, and you know, and people kind of gave him like the side eye. They gave him the Rock Johnson eyebrow, as you said last week. They gave him that. Hold up, you know. But
it didn't take like I said last, it didn't take months it didn't take a year or 2 years to get here. It was immediate.
Instantaneous, you know, and so, but I'm guessing, and maybe it was because maybe they didn't fully I think one thing is because it was, to be honest, Show's leaving also was shrouded in a little bit of mystery too, because you didn't fully know if it was because of beef, if there was animosity, you know, you didn't fully know.
And that's why I was saying that's what I was going to say, what I was going to say. Like, from the interviews that I listened to Shobaraka, and it's actually staying in line with what we own. Shobaraka felt, what I took was, from what he was saying, was Shobaraka felt like Reach Record was doing safe stuff. They were comfortable, things was working. They had broke down the barriers. They end with the tours and the mega churches, and they were going everywhere. Their platform was ridiculous, but it was a very safe environment. They didn't challenge you. They didn't push the envelope. Oftentimes, basically repeating the same message many times over. You know what I'm saying? And how he put it was, it became mundane when you sitting here, and I'm just gonna say it like he said, you in front of these teenage suburban, mostly predominantly white kids who really don't know your situation, your struggle, don't really relate to you, but your music is crunk and it gives them the feel of hip hop in a safe environment, and that's really what it was for them. And he said it was cool, but like you said, I can't say what I really want to say. And when something happened, like a Trayvon Martin or a Michael Brown, or injustices and systemic racism and all these things that we see and deal with on a day-to-day basis, Shobaraka was like, I can't speak to none of these things, and if I do speak to them, I'm quickly going to either get shunned or shut down. And it didn't float with what Reach Records was trying to do at the time, which was, like you said, the conflict between Lecrae and Shobaraka was that was literally what it was. And there was some tension there, because I believe what Shobaraka was trying to express was that Reach was comfortable in the lane that it was in and wasn't really trying to venture out, or definitely wasn't trying to let anybody up under the umbrella of Reach do anything that would be remotely controversial. And then so Shobaraka parted ways at a time, you know, when Reach was basically at his apex. It was at the highest it ever had been in CHH. And he left then, you know. So yeah, it took a lot of guts and a lot of bravery and a lot of testicular fortitude to do what Shobaraka did at the time that he did it. And you know, to see him come back with the narrative after going through the anger, the bitterness, the resentment, and then feeling some ways about what Lecrae doing now, and feeling like Lecrae is getting praised or what he considered blessed for a move that he made that he basically got maligned for. He went through all that, and that's where the narrative come from. But Yeah, that's dope. Go ahead though. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's like, so I mean, I definitely got deep respect for, you know, Show Baraka for that. Like, so big ups to Show for was willing to sacrifice for the sake of authentic gospel influenced and infused art, you know, which, you know, you had referred to. You're not sure if he would consider himself Christian hip hop. He said he don't mind the label. He said you know, his thing is, you know, he seeks to kind of redefine it a little bit,
Yeah,
you know, to broaden it some, and so
that's why I said that, because I didn't. I heard that. I remember him saying that. I think he said that on Wado's interview, right?
That, and I think he's also spoken about it on fourth district as well. But yeah, so I mean, I got big props on that. But moving forward from Show back on the Reach, and trying to get back, you know, trying to get back to the topic that you was discussing about, you know, the baton with the leadership, and it's where everything really got, you know, a little bit, I guess you could say, kind of topsy-turvy, is with, you know, basically 2011, 2012, when, you know, Reach Records is this huge, you know, at this time, this huge big engine, a big machine of a label that has all this influence. I mean, I would say the same level of influence as the cross movement, but even further reach. You know, no pun intended. And so and I mean, they have become the most trusted name in Christian hip hop, and I mean, these dudes had gotten evangelistic and theological hip hop, I mean, down to a science. I mean, and the thing is, it wasn't just theological, it wasn't just evangelistic, but it was relatable. I mean, because you know, you could tell these were dudes that came out of the hood. You could tell Lecrae came from the urban center. You could tell that, you know, he had a little bit of a, you know, I guess maybe a little checkered, you know, not so squeaky clean background. You know, you could tell that these guys knew about the urban center, you know, and then all of a sudden, you know, at the height of this, you know, influence, they do, as I said earlier, they did this about face. They just totally, you know, changed the coordinates, you know, the navigational, you know, coordinates of the ship. You know, in it seems, you know, in mid, you know, stream or whatever, and they changed their philosophy, you know, of approach to how they went about doing their music, and let me go on record for saying that I by no means disagree with said approach, as far as, you know, them wanting to do music that is more that is not as explicit, because, you know, going back to talking about, you know, when I mentioned the Tunnel Rats. The Tunnel Rats was on, you know, Tunnel Rats was doing that over 2 decades ago, you know, before there ever was a Reach, you know, before there ever was a Reach Records, you know, before Cross Movement had before their platform was elevated as high, you know, as it was. Tunnel Rats was doing that years ago, and big ups to Tunnel Rats for that, because I mean, they were awesome in how they did it, because even though they were more subtle, they still, in their subtlety, they didn't wince at being made known as Christians in their music, even with their music having a little bit more subtlety than maybe a cross movement. It's like they still didn't bat an eye at being identified as Christ followers. And so but so Reach, you know, they make this about face, and they decide that they're going to do music that is now not so explicit. It's we're still unashamed. We're still Jesus followers, you know, but they had an intent. As far as I can tell, they wanted to be more missional in their approach with hip hop. So they wanted to actually be hip hop. Now of course they didn't. I never seen anybody go on record as saying this, but this is what I believe is the modus operandi or the reasoning of their operating the way they are operating now. They want to be missionaries to hip hop culture. And when you think about what a missionary does, a missionary, whatever culture or nation he's trying to reach, he embeds himself in the culture of that region that he's trying to reach. Partaking in the aspects of the culture that are appropriate, and then rejecting and shunning the aspects of the culture that are offensive to the God of the Bible. And that's, I believe, in a nutshell, what I would say the impetus behind this new approach that began around 2011, 2012. And so with that, they begin to because they wanted to be able to penetrate mainstream hip hop culture, and they wanted to be able to get into that scene, to build relationships with mainstream artists, mainstream tastemakers, and those who populate that realm and that scene. And so they begin to make their music more, I would say, accessible, and not as confrontational or heavy-handed with Christian jargon and theological terminology. And so and I by no means have a problem with that in and of itself. So I don't want anybody, me or staff, so I don't want anybody, to take that stand. But with that, and I'm gonna pass it over to you, staff, I promise you. With that though, with that shift, there tended to be what appeared to me to be like this rebranding, and with the rebranding, what would seem, I think we touched on this last week, what would seem to have been somewhat almost kind of like a revisionist history of the past, of what was done prior to 2011, and of course, like I said, me or staff, we don't know none of these brothers, personally. So I mean, we can't attest to, any motivations or anything like that. We're not God. We don't know nobody's hearts. But just from the vantage point that we were at, it seemed like whenever they begin to be approached about what's your take on this, or why even do this, it seemed like that it was kind of like especially when there were questions about well, why was your approach like this in the past? It seems like it was there were efforts to try to explain it away as if like, oh well, hey, hey, we all make mistakes, but no, man, but staff, I'll pass it over to you, and let you elaborate on that as well.
Well, I would say where you're crediting the switch, I would say that was just a final act of a combination of events that I feel like were the beginnings. Like I don't start there. I end there. I end where you start. I think that was one of the last moves that clearly identified something has changed within CHH, and Reach was the ones who done it, brought it out front, allowed us to see, okay, we are clearly going a different direction. But I would say, to me, I started seeing the beginning effects of something going different in CHH when The Truth had his situation.
Really?
And I know that's crazy, but I do. I felt like when The Truth situation hit, or who's hit first? Was it Ambassador or The Truth? I think it was The Truth, right?
Oh man.
No, it was Ambassadors. It was Ambassadors first.
Yeah, I think it was Ambassador.
And then Cross Movement did what they did to Ambassador.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
There was a lot of backlash because a lot of folks felt like Cross Movement did not handle Ambassador correct. And then when The Truth situation hit the fan, to me, the combination of that, Show Baraka and High Society starting to do what they were doing, and then the music started to get a lot more flashy, a lot more self in the music now, not as, like you said, before they started saying it, they started showing you in their music, and then they eventually started saying it in the direction of how they try to create what Unashamed meant and 116. That was all after all these other chain of events that I believe caused people to question what we were doing and how we were doing it and the way we were doing it. And is this the best way because of what happened and how hard the game came down on Ambassador and The Truth. That's when I first started seeing, like, okay. And then Show Baraka and Courtney and all the others started to say what they were saying. This is all happening kind of around the same time. And Lecrae them was doing, but I remember Lecrae making a statement saying that once what happened with Ambassador and The Truth shook him. I don't know if you remember this, but he said it shook him a little bit. He said it in one of his lines, and he's also said it in an interview that it shook him with what happened to Ambassador and The Truth and the backlash and the way they were dealt with by the community. And then I noticed, and I noticed from there, Lecrae wasn't as harsh or as what was the word I want to use? You said it earlier. It wasn't so in your face.
Confrontational,
harsh. It kind of went a different way. It started to kind of go very self-reflecting. Telling the stories of the upbringing and the struggles. He started kind of changing his message. Then you got to Rehab, and he kind of started doing that, and it got lighter and lighter and lighter.
I was gonna say that was Rehab. Rehab was a reflective album,
right? That happened right in connection to all the stuff previous to that. We get Rehab, where he kind of more transparent, open with his upbringing, all the stuff. He not to say he didn't do it before. But it was mostly about him trying to subdue the flesh for the spirit and killing himself and dying to what this album was. This is who I am. I ain't perfect. I ain't trying to act like I'm perfect. But it came on the ends of the ambassadors and the truth, which, if we be honest, at the time, Lecrae wasn't, the truth was the face. I would think at that time, the truth when Lecrae was neck and neck. Lecrae was still coming up, but the truth was actually there. And, you know, the truth had the Kirk Franklins and the Ty Tribbett's and many other prominent artists featured on his stuff, or he was either being featured on their stuff. Mm-hmm. He was very big, very huge at the time. Maybe not in CCM, but CCM, but he was very big on the other side. You know,
on gospel,
gospel side, huge.
Yeah, I think Lecrae and Truth were trending on opposite sides of the spectrum.
Right.
Truth was trending the Truth was trending in the gospel sector with the Yolanda Adams and the Kirk Franklins and the Donnie McClurkins, and then Lecrae was trending on the CCM side with the David Crowder bands and you know,
Toby Max and
the Toby Max and all of them.
Right.
And so you know, because that was the audience that really, I would say, really propelled, you know, Reach and Lecrae and them, you know, because once they got exposed to, you know, mainstream Christian, the mainstream Christian hip hop, I mean, the mainstream Christian audience, you know, and that audience, you know, realized that, oh my gosh, you know, there's this awesome music, there's this awesome, you know, hip hop out that's biblical and you know, gospel saturated and safe. You know, as you use your word you used earlier. It's safe. You know, I was going to say something, but I'm not going to do that because that would be mean. But it wasn't mean toward Lecrae or Reach. It was going to be mean towards majority culture. But let me shut up.
But yeah, that's where I say the shift started to start. That's where it got its beginnings. I think people got shook by, because at that time, Trev, we were harsh, like Lecrae, like, you know, if it ain't the gospel, you know what I'm saying, you know, kill me if I don't, all this, like, we was hard, you know, real harsh, real heavy-handed, real stern and strict in how we came about our gospel, where a secular cat would probably not want to listen to anything we had to say because we was stern with it. So after them situations and the combination then with Sho Baraka leaving Reach and the ripple of that, and then they formed High Society, and then you had a few other groups and people in between that were kind of doing some similar things. I felt like that was where I started seeing the change. It's like, this thing changing. Cats are scared of, what if I fall like them? And I ain't, and my life don't line up with maybe the message so closely with the message. Am I going to get lambasted? Am I going to get torn down? So I started seeing it change. To me, that's where it started changing. I don't know if you agree with that, but that's where I saw the change. And everything went a little bit more, I want to say PC, light, more fun, more loving, more patience and long suffering. Like, you wasn't here, it was like a lot of love at this time. And you know, so then we get to the what you was talking about, where it became very evident that something is changing. And during the whole swag era, everybody was swagged out. And, you remember that? Let's be real. It was just, we had the swag era.
Yeah, you're right.
And social media and Twitter pages and everything started to become more and more part of what we did and posts and all that stuff. It seemed like we became the stars of our show rather than Christ being the star of our show. And that's why I'm asking, the question, did we ever have leaders, or were we leading ourselves, including cross movement? They were leaders within CHH, but who was leading cross movement? Who was holding cross movement accountable? Who was holding Reach accountable? Who was holding the clear sites and the full rise and lamp modes and all these other? Who are holding these people accountable? I know the John Pipers and the Mark Driscolls and the Paul Washers and the Eric Masons influence these guys and talk to these guys off the side, but do they really dictate where these artists go and what they do and how they operate? Some of them, like the Flames, yeah. I think Flame is clearly has an overseer or a shepherd that he listens to, and that leads and helps him through his way he approaches music. Not just him leaning on his own self, but he has someone that he's accountable to. But across the whole spectrum of CHH, I don't think we have that. And these guys are able to do what they determine is right for them and their artistic expression and platform. And there's really no one that can really speak to it outside of fellow artists. See what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Do that make sense? So I was like, do we really? I don't know.
I see what you're saying. I would say that if you can say Flame has accountability, I would say cross movement as well. Now, true enough, there was the fall and stuff between Truth and Ambassador. You got to understand how many years did it take Ambassador to fall?
Yeah, I know. I'm with that.
We're going from 1995 to 2009. That's a good run, and so
I hate that you had to put it that way, but it was a good run, definitely. Oh God, that was so okay. Go ahead.
But
don't want to laugh at them fall. It was just how you put that was kind of funny.
I definitely didn't mean no humor or no lightheartedness about his indiscretion, but and much respect to Truth and Ambassador, man. I thank and praise God for.
I think it was needed.
The rest of a definite wake up call.
Yeah, I think we needed that reality check.
But to your point, and this is something I wanted to elaborate on more earlier today when you hit me up about it earlier. Definitely, I would say there was definitely probably the issue of while cross movement were like the leading voice, they were yet still young men. They're yet still sinners, in need of God's grace. So they were definitely, as the song says, prone to wonder. And which that represents all of us. Right. You know what I'm saying? And so I would still believe that they I believe with the personal legalisms, and I don't mean when I say legalism, I'm not using it in a derogatory term towards cross movement. I just mean with the strong personal convictions that they abided by, like the personal legalism that they abided by. I think they definitely did have accountability systems, but everything at some point you can find ways to, I guess you could say, kind of fall through the cracks of any type of checks and balances, or accountability system. And so that's what happened. I believe in those scenarios. Now, to speak to another thing about what you were saying about who's really leading CHH as a whole. Something that was an issue that I didn't realize this was an issue amongst CHH artists, and it probably wasn't just among CHH artists. It could have been amongst a lot of artists in Christian or gospel music. But something I started hearing, and the truth even spoke about this, was that you had a lot of artists that weren't connected to a church, to a local congregation.
Right.
So that now that's definitely something that would have to be indicative of, you know, things like that. Now, with cross movement, these dudes were planted in churches.
I know. That's why I'm saying. That's why I preference everything I'm saying post cross movement, because and let me say this, and I'm gonna be quick. When I talk about Ambassador and the Truth's fall, I'm not looking like I'm perfect, bro. If the Lord ever decided to flash a magnifying glass on my life, I probably wouldn't be the same sin, but I would definitely be exposed. You see what I'm saying? So, absolutely. So I'm not saying it. I feel like we're all broken vessels, you know, trying to represent a perfect picture, you know. But we are that perfect picture is being reflected through broken vessels, and we're no better than none of these guys. But yeah, you're right, Trev. But go ahead, finish with your point, because I want to say something to that. But go ahead. What you just said, cats not being planted in no churches, but they doing.
Yeah. But you know, but I remember this was an interview that Troop did, where he said, you know, there was a period of time, I think maybe when he first, I guess like maybe in the early days of his start with CHH.
Yeah.
And I think, and I want to say it was when Epiphany Fellowship first got up and going.
Right.
And I think Ambassador and Eric Mason was basically trying to get him to, you know, to get plugged into the church, you know, and he was basically like, well, you know, his thing was, well, what can you give me? What can you give me at this church that I don't already have now? He's like, I'm getting the word, you know, I'm getting the word on a constant daily basis, because like,
they have Bible studies and all that.
Yeah. He's like, I'm getting the fellowship of the brethren, you know, and I was being this, you know, I guess he was getting discipleship and so he was like, you know, he's like, how can you really convince me that I really need the body, you know? And it took, I guess it took a minute for him to kind of really see his need for the church. And like I said, and you know, please be advised, you know, these interviews I'm quoting from, it's been a minute since I've heard them, but I'm going off the best of my memory. But you know, he eventually realized his need to connect to a body of believers, and he joined Epiphany, and so, but what I began to realize, like, I began to hear more and more interviews of different cats who would talk, who would bring that type of stuff up, talking about, you know, how they or there would be guys that would mention how there are a lot of guys out there that do music but aren't connected to a church. And I was like, really? I'm like, how's that? You know, now I'll be honest. I can understand that mentality now. With me being, you know, with me and my family having moved and transitioned from you know, having relocated and left one state and moved to a totally different state, and you know, so you know, having gone, you know, 7+ months without, you know, actually, you know, having officially been connected to a church home, it's very easy. It's very easy to get used to not especially like, you know, someone such as myself. I was very heavily active in my previous church, and you know, week in, week out, you know, Sunday after Sunday, you know, basically, on my post, singing praise and worship and teaching Sunday school and then when called upon, preaching on Sunday mornings, whenever asked by my leadership, going from that to where, like, really, if I want to go somewhere, I got to make sure that I get the okay. Well, go from that to getting to where, well, anytime we want to go out of town for the weekend, I can just up and go, and I don't have to worry about, well, who,
that's what you want. I can clap my hands when I want to.
I'll say this: I can understand the appeal, especially, and you gotta understand, Trump was in his 20s then. And a lot of these guys who were having this issue, they were
fresh out of college.
Yeah, they
smarter than the average. That's what I was going to go with it. Like what you describe with yourself is your displacement or your not having a church home only is because you moved home to a new location. You have not planted yourself anywhere yet. Whereas these folks were in their home towns, but they were basically mentoring and discipling each other through their own Bible. I mean, I used to hear about the Bible studies, especially ones that went on in the loop, that they were having amongst themselves and teaching themselves, and they really wasn't associated with anybody. They was basically a clique, a group of artists and friends and students out of college and different things that came together, and they kind of held each other accountable, which is nothing wrong with that. But it is a lot of young folks leading young folks, and oftentimes, this trail is and I ain't saying it's bad, but oftentimes we tend to don't think, what can you tell me? Like the truth, what can you tell me that I don't already have? Like, when I have somebody, I'm 25 and you 26, what can you tell me that's going to cause what about your leadership? Unless I allow you to lead me, I ain't accountable to you for real.
We learning together. It's like
right, So
but yeah, I mean, so that was definitely, I guess, somewhat of I wouldn't say it was an epidemic, but I would say like maybe somewhat of a brief phenomenon amongst music artists in Christianity, and to where there was this whole thing of like, hey, I'm gonna do me. You know what I'm saying? I love the Lord, but basically what it basically is, it just, people, I think there's people wanting that autonomy, wanting to have that self governance, that self rule, and they kind of like come as they go and come as they please, and and kind of call their own shots, somewhat of a Lone Ranger type Christian walk, which is very dangerous.
And that's kind of what's dominating CHH right now, is a lot of, I'm just going to do me. I'm not worrying about what you believe. Like, I hear this coming from Lecrae a lot. I hear this coming from a lot of artists. I'm not, I'm going to be me. I'm going to do what I believe. And nothing wrong with that. But the Bible does say, lean not to your own understanding, and through their safety in the multitude of counsel, meaning we should be accountable to each other. We should have someone that we are accountable to, that should be able to speak into our life and, hey, bro, I understand what you're trying to do, but hey, this might be a bridge too far. This might be a little outside of what we consider correctness, and should be able to pull you back in. But I'm noticing that a lot of these artists No, that's not the case. You know, you don't control me. I'm controlling myself. I'm the captain of this ship, and I'm going where I want to go, despite what the voices that are maybe coming at them to say, "Hey, bro, there might be some problems here." I want to play this with Derek Minor, if you don't mind, before we get out.
Yeah, go ahead.
And we'll make this our end note, because we was gonna talk about Derek last week. Let me find it here in a second, but we didn't end up doing it. But here it is, right here. Let me see if I got it up. All right. Hold up, my bad.
Basically, you talking about the clip from Legacy Conference, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Legacy Conference 2017 in Chicago, which was last week.
Here it is.
Success. The worst thing. So some people gonna say, "Oh yeah, he talking about it." I'm not even talking about Lecrae, because there's a success that you can be the man in church, preach at all the little reform conferences, go to all the little reform this and that. That's a degree of success too. That's the worst thing that could have happened. Success. We have forgot the mission, because you know what the mission is? People. Christ died for people. Christ got up off the throne for people. Christ went on the cross and endured all this craziness for people. How dare I treat my brother like he's just some stranger? I love you. Why can we not love one another? Because of what? Success? You want to be the tallest midget? Wait a second. That's not politically correct. Come on. Is this what we doing? Is this what this conference is about? Demos and mixtapes and let me go rub up against somebody that's important? We have forgot the mission. Rapper that's a Christian and Christian rapper. Because before my art means anything, my brothers matter. This is what the Bible say. If you have an art with your brother, what you supposed to do? Lay that thing down. Go get it right with your brother. I swear, as sure as my name is Derek Lawrence Johnson Jr., before I sit here and not address the fact that we have lost the love for one another. I'm not perfect again. I'm not doing it right, but neither are you. We are just broken vessels that need Jesus. And you, my friends, you were made for greatness. You were not made for this foolishness. Fighting on the internet, that's not greatness. Dissing one another, that's not greatness. Talking behind one another's back, that's not greatness. Me saying I'm your brother and then using you for your platform, that's not greatness. When the only time I care about you is when I need a drop, a mixtape, a beat, a verse, that's not greatness. What greatness is you knowing who you are in Jesus. You were made in his image. We all have value.
So
put the guns down.
That's basically that was his 3-minute soliloquy at the Legacy Conference. And he said a lot of things. And I know we already went pretty long on this podcast, but we can talk about this and get out of here. First of all, it goes back into what we've been talking about. Has the leaders in this thing dropped the ball? You know, because he said, you know, cats dissing each other, avoiding each other, acting like people are not their brothers, not showing love to one another. He said, whether you're a Christian rapper or a rapping Christian, we have forgot the first mission, and that's people. Christ died for people. Christ went through all this crap for people. And if you got an alt against your brother, you're supposed to lay down your gift or lay down whatever you're doing and go fix that with your brother. He had a lot to say. So, Trev, tremendously.
Yeah.
What did you feel about Derek's soliloquy, man?
I mean, definitely was hitting. I mean, it definitely spitting truth. First off, he was spitting truth. I would say that one of my areas of pushback is that in the case of this quote unquote beef or this back and forth that's been going on right now in CHH, you have to realize the reason why and this speaks to a bigger thing, bigger than CHH. It actually speaks to what happens in the church where we have these arguments and discussions on doctrines and stuff. The reason why we even have these contentions over things such as doctrines and teachings or approaches to how we minister the gospel or do Christian music is because of what's at stake. Because the lives and souls of people are at stake. As you know, Derek might have did elaborate on, because people's lives are at stake. It's important that we do, get clarity on like what sound, what isn't sound, what approach is in line, and what approach seems to be kind of somewhat wavering. What seems to be going well, what maybe not going so well. It's like there has to be a time, like my thing is this to everybody who has like issue with what Charlene said, or has issue about this commotion that's been going on. Would it be best that nothing gets said and we just slowly and gradually just drift away, further and further away from the call and the gospel? Because what we have to realize is like the default setting of the human heart is not intimacy with God. It's not closeness with God. We don't get close to God on autopilot or by default. By default, we drift. And so the same thing is true for Christian culture. Christian culture by default drifts from the gospel and drifts from Christ. It will drift to maybe a thing of God, but it's still drifting away from God. It's putting something else in as the center other than God himself. And so, where I agree with what he's saying, because the mission is, the redemption of people. That is the mission, to see people redeemed by the proclamation of the gospel. And whatever medium or format that God has enabled you to be able to do that. And we do need to realize that, and also guys on the mission field cutting each other down or talking about behind each other's backs or whatever. Yeah, that's not a good look. That's a bad look, for the gospel. And so that's not good. And people using people for a platform, that's not that's not good also. But I think more so what to me, I feel like what brought this up was initially the back and forth in CHH about Shaolin versus I want to say Shaolin versus the state of hip hop. versus the state of CHH.
Right.
And it's like, to me, it's like okay, so to those who feel like Shaolin was hating, should nothing ever get said? Is that the case? Like, do we wait till CHH implodes or blows up in our face, then somebody come and say something when it's too late?
Right.
It's like we need we need a Shaolin. We need somebody to come out there and be like, hey, hold up, pump the brakes. Things ain't like it used to be. What happened? What happened to us being sold out for the kingdom?
Right. It seems like Derek is trying to put a Band-Aid over a cut that definitely needs stitches.
Over a gun wound.
Yeah, you can't. Derek is speaking truth, but your truth is not going to solve the current situation. If it wasn't at the state it is at now, if you would have said this maybe a year or two ago, 3 years ago, you might have been saying something. It might have been, but to say it when there's literal open wounds and damage and for real confusion amongst the culture, what you're saying now is a little too late. You know what I'm saying? You're talking around what you really want to talk about. What's really on your mind is what you said at the beginning was Lecrae and Shaolin and what Shaolin had to say and how that plays towards you and what you do. And okay, all this is really what's going on. The commotion in the comment section, you ain't gonna escape that. You ain't gonna escape commotion in social media, the scrutiny of social media, the extremities of social media. You ain't gonna escape that. But like you said, when are we just supposed to sit back and be silent and watch this thing be either totally derailed or totally taken off course to where we totally don't resemble what we clearly supposed to be resembling? There are some real questions that must be asked that the Shaolins and the ambassadors and the cross movements and even sideline voices and characters that people don't know like us and others who want to know what's going on. It's time to have a conversation. And it seemed like to me is why he was putting truth out there. The motive for why he was saying what he was saying to me didn't come off genuine. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think.
I'm not saying what he said wasn't correct. I'm saying the mindset in which he was saying it, you talking around what you really want to talk about. And you bringing everything in, but the real thing that prompted was the first stuff you said, you started to say, and you quickly got off of that. And you you brought other stuff in to make it seem like you're trying to deal with the whole spectrum, which until you get these two things together, everything else gonna be off because these things need to be addressed. We gotta address the situation with folks doing their own thing. Is it art or is it about the cry? Is it about the Lord? Which one is it? These things got to be addressed because it is causing a lot of problems. So you can't put a Band-Aid and a quick soliloquy on open wounds that definitely need stitches. You know what I'm saying? That's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
CHH is falling, is cut up, is bleeding a little bit, is shot up, you know what I'm saying? Is in intensive care, and you can't go up in there with a little Band-Aid and rub it across his chest, be like everything should be cool. Are we good? Let's love each other. No, bro. There's some issues we got to deal with, so that's how I felt about it. I felt like also, and this might be Derek's character. I don't want to say he's not being authentic and true to himself, but I felt like the high five and a lot of stuff that he did kind of took away from his point. It didn't add to it. It kind of took away from it. It shows to me that we good at rapping, but we're not good at connecting with people on serious stuff. Does that make sense? Like,
I would
that right.
I might would disagree, but I mean, with certain artists, I would.
Every artist is like that. I'm saying, I'm not trying to. I'm not making this an all-encompassing thing. I'm saying with that situation with him, I felt like in that situation, the way he was talking to me, I felt like he should have took his time and said what he had to say, minus all the other stuff.
Yeah, I can feel that. Which I need to actually watch it. I've heard the audio, but I need to actually see the actual visual element, and so yeah, that's
like when you turn around and you give the dude a high five, like you just said something that was. It's like, is this the Lord? Because I don't think the Lord at that time, when the Holy Spirit is speaking, is worried about giving somebody a high five. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like if you let it come out, don't. It seemed like it was some self in there. And
what you say? Don't seek validation. Let the validation come on its own.
Right, and it's like you got to turn around and give your DJ a high five, like you just said something so potent and profound, like, oh my God, I'm too deep for him right now. It's like it's to me, it symbolizes self, and again, it speaks to. I ain't never been scared to say stuff. I don't care. It's and this is my fear, and I feel like I'm guilty of this as well. A group of people who are heavily and strongly talented, but who ain't seasoned, who ain't trained for the other part of it, the actual ministerial part. We good at the rapping, we good at the performance, we good at all that. But when it comes to the actual ministering, not all of us, but a lot of us are not strong in that area. And I felt like Derek, I don't know. Maybe this is personal. I just felt like the high five, the putting the mic down, walking off. It was too much him. And even though what he was saying is simple truths. It ain't nothing deep about it. It was, no, we shouldn't be talking about each other. No, we shouldn't be hating them. These are common sense truths. These are across the board, secular, saved. These truths are truths. You don't need nobody to explain that. It was what he was doing with it that was kind of throwing me off. Like, Derek, what's all? It's like, man, it's more about the fact that you are saying something and you bold enough to say it, more than if what you said was prompted by a conviction. And like, to me, Shailen's was prompted by conviction. Like, I can't help but to say this. I ain't trying to get no high five. I ain't looking for no accolades or no kudos for saying it. I'm saying it because it really needs to be said. I don't need you to give me no high five. Whereas Derek, you turn around giving everybody your boys high five. You posturing and all. Like, man, there's like a lot of you in this, and that's how I felt about it. I'm just gonna be honest. I'm sorry. I just got to be honest. I felt like there was a lot of me-ism in what Derek did, even though he was telling the truth. That's how I felt. Yeah. That might give me some heat, but I'm just gonna be real. I ain't on here to be sugarcoating it. That's how I felt.
Yeah.
If I was in front of Derek, I would tell Derek that. I felt like that was a lot. Some of that was a lot of you, man. Like, that's how I felt.
I definitely felt like it was a bit. Like, don't get me wrong. Like,
I didn't disagree with it. It's just I'm just
yeah. I respect the passion. I mean, because like, just basically, I basically in a nutshell, like, you could what I sensed from Derek is that he's frustrated. He's irritated with the state. He, in the words of Seven, he's disgusted.
Yeah, you saw that video.
Okay. Yeah, he's disgusted with what he's been seeing over the last few months or weeks or however long it's been since this, this uproar. And I can respect that. So that's why, like, I can't just totally push back. Like, I'm with him, but at the same time, like, me, of course, I mean, it's easy to say what you would do when it ain't you. It's very easy to say that. I would have liked to seen him plead with the body, have more of an imploring type of tone, but because I don't want him to run the danger of being considered just the angry black Christian rapper who just wants everybody to shut up and do right. It's like I don't want him to get categorized as that, get made up. Like, I feel like that people could easily make a caricature out of that moment. You know what I'm saying? And now don't get me wrong, he had a lot of cats that were with him. I saw in the comment sections and stuff where he had a lot of support, and rightfully so. But yeah, man, I mean, and then also, like, another thing, and this is something that's bothering me about like the current narrative that's been kind of building with CHH. Everybody in CHH ain't trifling.
Yeah.
Everybody in CHH ain't got the wrong intentions.
True.
Like, it's like we as Christians, we got this thing to where we either totally baptize something or we totally demonize. We are very given to extremes. And like, there's this one new YouTube channel, Christian outlet, that gives, like, the latest and greatest of what's going on in CHH. And there's this narrative that they've been putting out that there's just all this division in CHH. I mean, is there division in CHH? Yes.
And it's amongst a certain sector of CHH. It's not all across the board.
Exactly. And the thing is, it's the same division that's in the body of Christ. It's like you got denominational differences. You got theological differences. You got ministry philosophy and ministry approach differences. And you got people who are very passionate, very heated, can get very heated and very divisive about those things. And so, yes, there's division. And we do need to try to unify on the areas where we can unify. But okay, I'll just elaborate on it a little bit. The song, going back to where we're talking about the same, we all on the same team. The song is Swoop.
Yeah.
Swoop spearheaded.
Right.
And he brought along, cats. I think maybe he had Alex Faith, Dre Murray, and
yeah, I remember the song.
I want to say T. He had cats from Reach, cats from Collision Records, and I want to maybe say even Letmo. He had some of the best and brightest from all sectors of or from most of the sectors of CHH. And we're basically saying we all on the same team. It was, if I could liken it to anything, it was CHH's version of a self-destruction track.
Right.
Basically it's this awareness track, like, hey, let's bring awareness to to an issue that's going on that we want to, or to something that, that we see could possibly be an issue if we don't address it, now. Let's get ahead of this thing. And Swoop was like, man, we all on the same team. And so and all these other cats came along with him and was like, yeah, you right, man, we all on the same team. Well, you got cats that's like, well, that never really is that basically that song and that notion is basically a sham and it doesn't exist. And my thing is, I'm like saying, okay, if you're talking about because one group's platform is not the same as another group's platform, or because when this group does something, they're not holding the hand of this other group's while they do it, that doesn't mean that there's division. That means that you have this camp who they associate with this other group, and they interact with them from time to time, but this group is in their part of the vineyard. This other group is in their part of the vineyard, and they grinding it out. And then when it's time to cross paths and do some cross ministry with one another, and some co-laboring, they do that. Well, it's like now, of course, now true enough, I don't have the inside vantage point that the guys in the industry have, but I don't know. To me, I think I don't think that narrative is as pronounced as some people are making it. Now, like I said, I'm not saying there's not division in CHH. There's division in Christianity. So there's going to be division in CHH.
Right. I would say that while division is a part of the game, the Bible talks about it. That's why the Bible tries hard to keep strife and people who stir up strife and division. He hates it, because it exists, and it ain't something you can avoid, but you can make strives to make it less impactful to what you're doing. What I took from what a lot of artists were saying when it's coming from, what the point they was coming from was, and Trev, I think me and you in our own small circles have experienced exactly what they're talking about. Cats are not as willing to share their platform, and you can bring them to your platform, but they never open up. When they have a platform, they ain't gonna even think about you. You know what I'm saying? You come up and you around them and they act like they don't even know you. But then somebody that they close to or they rocking with seems to be into you. Now they know you. Hint, you know what I'm talking about there. So so I think that it's truth. I think the video, I think it's wrong to use that video as an example of something being false, because I think the video was trying to speak to a problem and it was trying to be used as a tool to bring us together.
Absolutely.
But so the video was not a lie. It was an
ideal.
It was an ideal in trying to address a unspoken issue amongst CHH. But there is clickism.
I don't deny that. I won't deny that.
Yeah, us and them, and I ain't, competitiveness, and I'm trying to outdo you. I'm trying to outshine you. I'm trying to out-rap you. But like you said, this ain't just in CHH. This is in Christianity in general. As a drummer, I was trying to crush everybody that played after me or before me. And I know, our boy Kyle had the same mentality. Anytime he touched some drumsticks, he's trying to make it hard for the next person to get on the drum. So now I grew out of that, but when I was younger, I did have that mindset. I wanted to be seen as the best. So when you had that type of mindset and way of approaching the thing, it doesn't create an environment for unity and oneness and friendship and fellowship. It creates a tension that is easily felt that causes folks to be standoffish. So it's not welcoming. So a lot of times we would go to venues. Me and you talk about this. We didn't feel welcome in them venues. We didn't feel the love from fellow Christian saints. Matter of fact, they wouldn't even talk to you, wouldn't even acknowledge you had the time, unless your set was good and you killed it, and the audience was into you, so they had to acknowledge you. So yeah, I think it's real, but that video is not a good thing to use to say that it was lying. That video wasn't lying about anything. It was just bringing attention to a problem and trying to say this is how we ought to be, not how we currently are. So that's how I feel about it. I believe that it is. I don't think it's as widespread as it's painted to be, because I think a lot of people take stuff too personal, and their career is more important than the ministry aspect. Because if I focused on my career and it was just about my platform and my status and coming up, I would have been offended and I wouldn't even deal with people. But because I was trying to do it, I wanted my platform to elevate, but I also wanted to be right from a biblical standpoint. And my ministry, it was about, like Derek was saying, people first. And oftentimes I would go back to these venues and back around these groups, even though I know they weren't really showing me real for real any love or acceptance. And you felt it too, because you was there with me. So we know of that. So and hey, it's a reality that is prevalent in CHH. It's been, we've been doing this almost 17 years.
Yeah.
So we've been doing it almost 2 decades, and we could go all the way back from our humble beginnings to when we was actually doing it big, so to speak, to where we at now. And we have always experienced that. So I can't say that it's not true, but I can't say that it has ever made me want to step away from CHH and not claim to be a Christian. No, it ain't never done me like that. And that's why I don't understand where a lot of these artists is coming from. But I do feel like a lot of the pillars, a lot of the baton holders who have the current, who got control of the steering wheel of this thing could be doing a better job. Put it like that. Of leading. But that's where I end at on my end. If you got some more to add to it.
I would just say, of course, I can only imagine what it must be like say for instance, like for Lecrae, like with all the criticism that he deals with, I couldn't imagine dealing with that, because I can be very, very well. I'm being honest. I'm a person that I have quite a bit of insecurity, and I can be very self-conscious. And to have thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people criticizing you on social media, and some outright just calling you apostate and saying you're not a believer, and people making YouTube videos talking about you ain't no believer, and
you enjoyed the Illuminati. See how he's covering his eye.
Like,
oh my God,
I don't even know if I could even. I don't know how I would respond to it, and so I'll be honest, man. I can understand how Lecrae could get real frustrated or even jaded. Which I'm not saying he is jaded. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying if he did get to the point to where he's like, man, I don't want nothing to do with CHH, like ever. If if the reason is because of the critical hypocritical critical nature of the subgenre, I can understand that. I would still say, bro, don't cast us off completely, but still, I could understand that because we can be harsh. Now, of course, it ain't just once again, it's not just CHH, and it ain't even just the church. That's flawed, sinful, fallen humanity.
Right.
We are both hypercritical of others while simultaneously being hypocritical ourselves. Yeah. Because we hold people to standards that we can't even measure up to ourselves. And so, I'll go ahead.
No, finish what you're saying. I thought you was...
But I was just gonna say, yeah, because like I look at, like whenever I get notifications whenever Cray or D Minor or several notable artists or CHH luminaries when they put posts on Twitter. And one thing I noticed, man, it's like Lecrae can't even put anything up without getting criticized. He put up a tweet that was and I know he meant it as a joke. He put up a tweet. He was like, man, he's like, Wild is talking about becoming vegan. Jesus ate meat. It was a joke. Or if at the most it was an LBVS, laughing but very serious moment. Mm. Like I'm kind of joking, kind of not, maybe. But man, immediately, you got people. Some people, got with him, but there was other folks. But he didn't eat processed meat, and he didn't. It's like, oh my gosh, you freaking serious? It's like, it's like you can't take this for what it is, man. It's like, dude, man. It's like you got some folks. They will not let the brother live. Like I'm not gonna act like I agree with everything I've seen Lecrae do, but no, Lecrae is still my man. I'm still rooting for the brother. I still got love for the brother, And I just, one thing that I ain't about to do, I'm not about to troll the dude and sit up there and criticize everything he put up there.
That's like I said, man. You hit it right on the nail. That's extremism. But like you said, we got people who won't read any book that ain't King James version. So keep it moving. Keep it moving, man. Don't open up. Let's keep going. We ain't got time. But what I was going to say was,
because I can go forever on that, man.
We ain't got time. But my point is, that's the extreme. But I will say this. Lecrae got to be sympathetic to the fact that there is some legit criticism being levied at him because of his own words.
Yeah.
And when you filter through all the extremism and all the over-the-top individuals who, like I said, the King James only folk. I know I'm offending some people with that one, but
you a heathen, right?
Yeah, I'm a heathen. Reprobate, cast me out. Anyway, once you get past that group, Lecrae got it own up to his own words and the criticism that people are levying at him based on those words. And so, yeah, I agree with you. I don't know how that would be because, I've been doing YouTube on another alias for going on 4 years. And some of the stuff that I got hit with in my small audience of subscribers, it can drive you up a wall sometimes. And I can only imagine what millions of tweets and comments could do to you psychologically when, you know, they don't like a move you make or a decision you were doing, everything, you know, saying you the devil and reprobate and a charlatan and whatever else they levy at, Illuminati and all that. So I don't agree with all that. I think that's just over the top. But I'm pretty sure Lecrae is able to tune it out. You know, I'm pretty sure he has trained himself to tune it out. So maybe, hopefully, he don't tune it out to the point that he don't listen to nothing, you know, and nobody.
Yeah.
But yeah. But anyway, I think we supposed to do an hour. I think we on 2 hours and 30 minutes.
I believe so.
And we still didn't get into this like we really want to. But I'll say we might give another stab at this topic on another podcast, maybe next week. But I think by that time, I think we will have exhausted up to this point what we can talk about. Is there, you got any final words, man, before we get out of here?
Justin, man, I always appreciate being able to chop it up with you, man, or, you know, on the podcast, man. This is glad that we done got back in the swing of things. You know, I'm glad that we you know, successfully cranked out a second you know, episode. You know, we on a streak. We 2 episodes in. We got a 2 episode streak. But no, I mean, I say that because, you know, it's like, you know, with all the responsibilities we got, man, you know what I mean, it gets difficult, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, me and you, we both husbands, we both fathers, we both ministers and employees at somebody's job, and so you know, it's we got a lot of stuff going on. You know, we got a lot of things going on in our everyday lives, and many times it's like when I'm supposed to be coming home to do the podcast, I still got we ain't even got dinner on the table yet. You know, it's like, and you know, we just getting in from, you know, like in case of point tonight, we just got in from, you know, school orientation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so I mean, it's, you know we getting cranked up for next week. You know, first week of school is next week for us. So
yeah,
you know,
my wife just got back from a little night out with girls' night out. Man, she hadn't. So I had the kids and finished the. You know, she had cooked and I had all that prepared, but I fed the kids, and so by the time she got back, it was, you know, it was pushing like 9:40. So we tried to start it, I think, right at 10 o'clock. So, but yeah, man, we working out the kinks, and but like Ministry said, we are fathers. We do have things that will detour and delay and defer what we are trying to do, but we're gonna try to stay consistent. Hopefully we get the timing down to where we ain't doing 2.5 hours. But if it happens like that, bro, it happens like that. Yeah. So this has been the Thinking Out Loud Dangerous Mind podcast. This ain't our second one, but this is our second one for this restart. Reboot that we're doing. So look forward to hearing from us same time or in the same time frame next week. But till then, folks, deuces.
I was angry, I was bitter, I was filled with pride, I was selfish, I was foolish to believe those lies of love, hate, love me, love rage, love greed. I didn't love God, I just loved his things, love approval, love sex, love money, love fame. But I ain't the same, thank the Lord I changed. I'm trying to fight idolatry and lust. Being good ain't enough, so in God I trust. I got faith. Yeah, okay. Seeking restitution for all my mistakes. Yeah, okay. Look me in my face, homeboy, you see grace? Yeah, okay. Still unashamed, just in a new space. Yeah, I'm just a little more humble now. In those Cali streets acting foolish, tried to run with those gangsters, I'm allergic to those